It's 5 o'clock in Pirate Country, and it's time to get pumped up with the P-Man. Hit the door and hit the road. 94.3 The Game is going to get you home, and the P-Man's not holding back.
Yes! Yes! Pirates win! Pirates win!
Bring on the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
Holy mackerel! Oh, my goodness!
The flagship station of the ECU Pirates.
All right. Hello again, everybody, and welcome in. It is the Patrick Johnson Show. 1 minute you're in, the next minute you're out, then you're in again. It's one of those weeks, Mother Nature. All right. We've got no Pirate baseball tonight. The game was originally supposed to pop off at 4, but in case you've been under a rock or maybe you have a little bit of fever from Super Tuesday, the game has been canceled, flat out, straight up canceled, which means East Carolina and VCU will not make this one up. They have moved the game that was originally scheduled for yesterday to May 8th, day after my birthday, Pilk, in case you want to get me something. So that'll be played that day. It'll be just a single between the two. They won't play two midweeks. And then, in fact, ECU will play Duke that day. Duke, by the way, Duke scored against Appalachian State yesterday 28 runs on 24 hits. 28-2. Woof. Crazy. So that's Duke, pretty good team. And so the Pirates will come off of that weekend series that they'll have, then Duke, then they will have the VCU Rams, and who knows where the two will be at that point. I know VCU had to leave today. They're going out to the upstate and playing in a tournament out in Greenville, South Carolina this weekend. So they wanted to go ahead and get on the road, and obviously the rain and the weather has not lent itself to really do anything today. So we'll see. It'll do some good to allow the field to kind of dry out, although there's and weather in the forecast. Also, in case you missed it yesterday, ECU softball was set to play Duke tonight originally in a doubleheader, which was to start at 4 and then have the second game follow. Of course, Duke's a top 10, top 5 softball program. That game, they already decided Tuesday was going to be postponed, and they will make that up on April 9th. So that is the makeup date for those particular games. So we push everything off for a month or two as it pertains to Pirate baseball and Pirate softball. Shane Winkler's team, by the way, is headed to their first conference series this weekend, and they will go to North Texas. So that is where they will be matching up. Philip the Ref Pilkington, did you enjoy getting to sleep in? What if you had to guess what time I went to bed last night, Pilkington, what would you guess it was?
You were up at 3:45 yesterday.
Correct.
8 hours is a normal amount of sleep, so I'm going to go 16 hours from 4 a.m. and say you were in bed about 8 p.m.
Pretty close. About 8:40.
Okay.
8:20, 8:40, one of the two I got in bed. And I think about 9 was the last thing I remember. And then I was out like a light until right before 4. So that was good. There's a friend of mine tells me silver linings. Always find the silver lining. There's a reason. There's a silver lining. That was the silver lining, Pilk.
Yeah, you had a long day yesterday, or could have had a much longer day yesterday.
If I had all the time that I've prepared for games I haven't done over the last week back, I'd have a lot of time on my hands.
That's true. You could have got a lot more sleep in. Could have got some midday naps.
I could have gotten a lot more sleep in. All right, ladies and gents, we have for you Brian Mull going to join us here on the program today. And one of the things we are going to talk about is Pirate basketball. ECU back at it tonight. It's an 8 o'clock tip from Dallas, Texas. And it'll be a 7 Central tip, 7:30, the airtime here on 94.3 The Game and 107.9 WNCT. It is senior night at SMU. SMU's lost 3 in a row, including a perplexing loss, easy for me to say, last time out. So you know they're going to want and have, a game in which they play pretty well. final game for them at home in the American. They get 20 wins in the regular season if they are able to emerge victorious, and that's a big turnaround from last year. Gives them a little bit of momentum going into the ACC. So yeah, that'll be the deal there. You could also pick it up on the IBX Media app. Mustangs once harbored some NCAA hopes. They actually thrashed Memphis back on February 18th, but then lost to FAU by 10 on the road. No harm in that. Lost to USF by 11. No harm in that. But did lose in surprising fashion this past Saturday by 4 to UTSA. So they're 49 in the net. Igo's done a good job of breaking down their wins. 16 of their 19 wins have come against Quad 3 and Quad 4 opponents, so that's not going to get you anything approaching an at-large. 13-3 at home, and we'll see how all of that plays. Before the UTSA, obviously, they only lost a couple games. Pirates will enter this one also losing 3 in a row, 14-15, 7-9 in the league. And they had this, they had good. I thought they'd kind of turned the corner, Pilk, after the 3-game win streak. I thought they'd maybe figured it out. They beat teams they needed to and should have beaten. But, it's that kind of a listless performance at Rice, and then the North Texas loss following the Memphis loss 3 in a row now. And, it was all Mustangs in the first matchup. So we'll see how this goes. Pirates are on and it's not so much East Carolina's losing now. You don't ever want to lose, but, the coaches will say, as long as we win by a point or 20, I don't care. Well, whether you lose by a point or 30, you lose. But, the way in which East Carolina has lost these last 3 games has been particularly frustrating. Brandon Johnson has had some poor performances. Ezra Azar has not been great as of late. Picked it up a little bit. Or picked it up and played well against SMU the first time, but they'll need some kind of performance from him tonight in a similar vein. And ECU has not won in Dallas in more than a decade. In fact, they have won 6 times against the Mustangs, and the Stangs are a big favorite tonight. So that's that. Pilk, any thoughts on the season? And obviously tonight, you got Charlotte coming in on Saturday, and they're trying to promote. $10 tickets in the lower bowl. I think we've it's reached that kind of point. Unfortunately, because I'm a big basketball fan, as you know, so I enjoy doing the games. So, but any thoughts to this point on the season?
The offense, just right as they seem to find an identity, right as they seem to show consistency in life, it all comes crumbling down. And you get right back to where you were 3 weeks ago before the offense got hot, and 3 weeks before that. And really, this offense, I don't see much difference in now and the beginning of the season. I think maybe the defense has gotten better, and yet a credit to Coach Schwartz, that's what he wants is a good defense. But I think the fans could get behind it a little more if they were losing 86-82. But they've lost a game.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, but and I'm going to say something else too. I've because we hear a lot of things, and I know there was some comments for not just a few people, a good amount of people, over 100, maybe more than that, where Coach Schwartz talked about the importance of having NIL, and people who I know were on that call have said, "Well, I can't believe we're talking about NIL," and who would we want to bring back from this roster? And you got to be able to go out and not only bring back certain players, but you need to be able to be a competitor, a shopper in the portal. And I'm not saying I know who that would be. It could be anybody. But you look at the who was the kid from Kinston? Is that Carolina, or was it Carolina? Or was it at Georgetown now? Google it, Pilkington. Now Georgetown's rotten. They won single-digit games, but he's the second best player on that team. You don't think he would be able to help East Carolina, who has more wins than Georgetown? You don't think he'd be a help?
Well, look at South Florida. They hit the portal. Now, some of it was their coach bringing guys over from Kennesaw State, but has South Florida ever been this good at basketball? Not since they left the Big East, at least.
Right.
And that is Dontrez Styles.
Dontrez Styles, yeah. Who, by all accounts, was interested and wanted to come to East Carolina. But, part of this is if we're electing to participate in this, you've got to be competitive in the space. And I've said this for a long, long time. Until we just quit petting basketball on top of the head, attaboy, nice try, guys, and start taking it seriously, then, you shouldn't have a say in be a part of the solution, not part of the problem, would be the best way to put it. And there are things that have been done to take basketball more seriously, as there should be. It is a sport that you can make money in. Wichita State, lousy the last couple of years. They make money with basketball. They don't have football. I get it. They've been to a Final Four. I get it. They have tradition. I understand. But it's not like they've been to multiple Final Four. I think they've been to 2. And they were many, many years apart. More than maybe 2 generations apart. So, you've got to – if you start taking it seriously and treating it seriously, you will see the dividend. It will pay off, I believe. And look, nobody's winning road games right now. I don't care who you are. So, if you get all, boo-boo face over the fact that you lose on the road. Now, granted, you don't want to lose and blow out on the road. You don't want to have a meager performance against Rice on the road. But, great teams aren't winning on the road right now.
UConn has not won a road-ranked game in 10 years.
Yeah. You know what they've done? Probably a couple national titles in that period of time. At least one, right?
2.
2, yeah. And Tristan Newton might be an All-American this year. Think about that for a minute. I think he's held his draft stock. I know, it's not in vogue to have older guys on NBA rosters out of college, but I think Newton's put himself in a position to make a roster somewhere because of his versatility. And if you're not good on NIL, who's the next Tristan Newton out of our program going to be? Who's going to be the next Jaden Gardner? Now, again, the cynic out there will say, well, there's nobody. This team's rotten. Well, they're 500. And they're on a skid right now. But, when's the last time East Carolina's had this many wins in this point in March? Been a bit. Second year of the guy being the head coach. And if you don't have the tools to go out and remedy the problem, again, what are we doing here? So I'm getting off my basketball soapbox right now. No Pirate baseball today. The rain has cost it. The game canceled. The game from yesterday will be made up in May. Pirate basketball tonight at 8 o'clock. And 7:30 the airtime on 107.9 WNCT and 94.3 The Game. We are going to talk with Brian Mull about tonight's Hoops game and more college basketball coming up here on the Patrick Johnson Show.
Taking the rage out of your drive home.
You just cut me off! But it's no big deal.
Patrick Johnson on 94.3 The Game and the new IBX Media app.
Brian Mull is alongside. We're talking college basketball, and we'll start with the Pirates here as we welcome Brian Mull. Follow him on the X at BG Mull. Brian, it's March, and there's a lot of madness.
It is March. We do have madness. Was watching the Atlantic Sun tournament last night.
Oh.
The home court of the higher seeds, and the number 10 seed Jacksonville stunning the top-seeded Eastern Kentucky Colonels right there in front of all their sad fans. And I said to myself, and then there was a buzzer beater in another Atlantic Sun game.
Yeah.
There was also an upset, a frantic final 5 seconds, and it made me smile because the madness is here once again. It always comes back.
It does, and that's one of the good things about it is you know it's always there. Awesome to have Brian Mull with us here. Let's start with what would be kind of the opposite of all that right now, and that's East Carolina. it looked like they were putting it together after the bad loss at Charlotte. Had won 3 in a row. Games they probably should have won, and they did. They took care of business to their credit. But just a really lousy effort at Rice. Memphis is Memphis and playing pretty well right now. Or at least were at the time the Pirates played them a week ago. And then, I think we knew this Texas swing was going to be tough, and it concludes tonight at SMU.
Yeah, I think the disappointing issue here for the Pirates is they just haven't carved an identity. They were doing that through January and into early February, where you felt like, okay, this is the team defending at the level that you would hope they would. And then a few shots started to fall through the basket on the other end. And like you said, that produced a 3-game winning streak. But to go on the road, Rice, just a dismal performance on both ends of the court. You're going to have some off shooting nights on the road, but your defense has to hold you in there, and it certainly did not in that case. And then just steamrolled by a very talented Memphis team that seems to have righted the ship. And this is not how you want to go into the final weeks of the season. It just opens up a lot of possibilities, none of them which are good. You're trying to build some momentum and for not only the end of this season, but going into the off season. And the Pirates have to do that here in short order.
Brian, is there any opportunity tonight as far as, with SMU? It's a road game. You've not looked good your last couple of road games. It is senior night there. They're going to want to make some kind of big final home game of the American as they move on to the ACC. Is there anything you see in SMU that the Pirates might be able to take advantage of? But this is a team that is poised. Now they're coming in on a losing streak too, but by gosh, they're poised to win 20 games here tonight.
Yeah, I think you're going to get a very good effort from SMU tonight, coming off a very unexpected home loss to UTSA that, as you said, extended their losing streak to 3 games. Really, when you look at SMU's results up until that point, they didn't have too many head scratchers, but that qualifies.
Oh yeah.
And here, like you said, senior night, trying to get to 20 wins. They've got a tough one at UAB to finish, and heading on to greener pastures of the ACC. I think it's going to take a borderline miraculous effort as a double-digit underdog for East Carolina to make this a competitive one-possession game late.
Yeah, tough deal. We'll see how it all shakes out. Brian Mull is with us here. Would you say, and obviously I think this little area in the schedule has probably maybe hasn't hurt because he's been fairly productive, but I thought at times up until this stretch, R.J. Felton was probably a lock for at least a second-team selection, which he was in the preseason. And he still may be, for all I know. You just don't know how it's going to go, I guess, with these new teams in the league. But what kind of season do you think R.J. Felton has had? I think it certainly is deserved of some at least second-team all-conference accolades.
Yeah, I agree. When you look at his numbers, in particular in conference, he's a top 15 player at worst, and possibly a borderline second team guy. He's really become kind of the face of the offense and the program, and been trusted to take a high percentage of shots and knock those down. And he's produced double-figure games going all the way back to November, a streak, which is very impressive. He's had a 3 in the last 8 or 9 games, and just been able to be the one person on that end of the court that Mike Schwartz could count on night in and night out. So it would behoove ECU to win at least one of these final 2. I think the higher you are in the standings, the better your chances of earning those individual accolades within a team. So a fine year by R.J. Felton. It remains to be seen. I don't know. I think he's going to be right on the cusp just because there are so many talented guards. So many talented guards.
At least, a third-team honor. Anyway, so Lenardi has South Florida in as the AQ, and let's face it, I think right now you have to be very impressed with what South Florida has done. He's got Florida Atlantic last 4 byes, Memphis in the next 4 out, which means they'd have to hop a handful of teams potentially, at least 4 teams to just be on the bubble and get in. He's also got Wake Forest and Virginia as the last 4 in, and I don't think there's any doubt Virginia just does not look like a tournament team recently. Anyway, you good with all that?
Yeah, I am. I believe that these next 2 weeks or 10 days, whatever, are critical for a large number of teams, a handful of which reside in the ACC. Syracuse getting beaten soundly on the road last night, not good. Wake Forest, just a unbelievable. I mean, I can't explain that team. They have a good coach, they have talent, they have skill, and now they've lost 3 in a row at the worst possible time. And like you said, Virginia just seems to be getting worse offensively by the minute. Those deficiencies, those results open the door for a Memphis who has 22 wins, who has some credible wins, who has an opportunity at FAU on Saturday. Yeah, that's a de facto bubble game. Whoever wins that's feeling a little bit better about their situation heading into the tournament. And then, like they have to reach the finals of the American tournament. So this is it's all fluid. I think the bubble is probably as big as it's ever been, just because so many teams are having a hard time winning on the road or distinguishing themselves in any fashion. And there is some recency bias to the committee. I don't care what they say. It's hard not to favor teams who look like they've gotten their act together in February.
The last 4 byes has Florida Atlantic. What's a scenario where FAU may not wind up making it in? Is there one that exists?
Well, I mean, they've got 2 tough games. They have to go to North Texas on Wednesday.
Tonight,
their old rival. Yeah, their old rival from Conference USA, and then they have to come home and play a Memphis team that, like we said, seems to have figured it out and has as much talent as FAU, if not more. And so, if they drop those 2, all of a sudden they're not. They're on the outside looking in, and what they're being buoyed by right now is that win on a neutral floor over Arizona, who's a likely 1 seed. But some of their other wins that looked like quality, such as Texas A&M, Butler, Virginia Tech, those wins don't look as good anymore. And really beyond that, it's the resume's kind of thin with a couple of head scratching losses like Florida Gulf Coast and Bryant. So I don't know that, unless the committee has a soft spot for what they accomplished last year, and certainly we all know FAU is capable of going on another run, even, winning a couple of games, but it is about what you have done this season. So I think they've got to at least split the last 2 of the regular season and then win a couple in the tournament.
And you still say South Florida has to win the whole tournament to get in?
I'm afraid that's true. It's just they're a product of the system. And if we're going to say that the games in November and December matter, then they have to matter for everyone. Again, this was not a schedule that was put together with any type of at-large situation in mind whatsoever. Abdur Rahim's looking at a lineup with a bunch of new players. Yes, some of them whom had come with him from Kennesaw State, but just trying to build something there. And boy, has he ever. But it would be... they could end up with 26 wins and be on the outside looking in a top 10 conference, and that doesn't happen very often.
Brian, before we grab a break here, are those the 3 that you think have the best chance of winning in Fort Worth next week that we've just talked about, FAU, Memphis, and South Florida?
I do. They're certainly the chalk. I still believe UAB can be dangerous in a tournament format. They've been very inconsistent, but I think when they're firing, they still have a high enough ceiling to get hot for 3 days. They could also lose in the first round and wouldn't surprise me a whole lot either. But they would be a dark horse. But I think those teams have separated themselves over the course of the season, and we'll see one of those 3 clipping the nets.
And you like Andy Kennedy. So
I do. I'm
Yeah.
a big fan. I mean, his record speaks for itself. He just wins 20 every year. It doesn't matter where he is.
Yeah. All right, a timeout, and when we come back, more with Brian Mull. We're going to talk some more college basketball, some intriguing matchups tonight in the top 20, and obviously we're on the cusp of the second go-around between Duke and North Carolina from Cameron Indoor Stadium this time around. So all of that is coming up.
We are.
Riding shotgun with you on the drive home.
It's showtime.
This is the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
Pirate basketball coming your way tonight. It will be 7:30 airtime here on 94.3 The Game and 107.9 WNCT as ECU takes on the SMU Mustangs from Moody Coliseum in Dallas. Here is Brian Mull back with us. Follow him on X, a great follow this time of year between everything going on with March Madness and also on the links. At BG Mull is where you could follow him there. All right, Brian, let's talk a little bit about Duke's win at NC State. I think a really good one for them. The Blue Devils, when they are going on offense, their offense is pretty good. They maybe are not defending at the level they had hoped and you would like to see necessarily, but I think offense, even if they're not making threes, their offense is still pretty darn good. And they won despite a tremendous effort from Burns with the season high in Raleigh on Monday night. So when you look at the Wolfpack, let's just start there because I think this kind of ends the conversation on them. We talked to Adam Gold yesterday. He still feels like Keats will get another year. Mileage may vary on that. What's your sense? You and I know Kevin pretty well. I know you know him a little better than I do, and I've always liked him. But it just hasn't really clicked in Raleigh.
It's a difficult job. Let's establish that first and foremost. They've had more unsuccessful coaches than successful ones since their glory days of the late 70s and early 80s. That being said, this team has underperformed relative to its talent. I mean, I've watched all the teams in the ACC multiple times this season. NC State has the third most talent, maybe fourth. I don't look at that team and say that they're overmatched other than when they're playing against North Carolina or Duke. And they just have not been able to establish any type of identity on the defensive end, just lack of, and Keith said that was the difference in the game the other night when they just blew assignment after assignment on the defensive end late in that game and allowed Duke to get on a roll and create some separation. And when that happens, it's going to be a long night. So I think he gets another year. I mean, who are you going to go get? Nobody's got the magic fairy dust to sprinkle there in Raleigh to make the program turn into a 27-win team. I think he deserves one more year, and they make a change either.
They're going to make the NIT, I would presume, or will they? Are they?
Yeah.
Okay, so they'll be in the NIT.
They should.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should. The NIT has decided to turn its back on all the mid majors because of the threat. Fox was trying to create its own tournament with the Big 10 and the Big 12, and once they got word of that, they said, "Whoa!" And they didn't want a repeat of last year when they had North Texas and UAB playing in the finals in Las Vegas, which was a very appealing game to most of us hoop heads, but not to those who write the checks.
Yeah, but, I mean, you're not going to have a sellout unless UNLV or, like, a brand name is involved, right? Even then. I don't know.
No, not in Las Vegas. And look, the NIT has had attendance problems forever. I read an article someone posted not too long ago from the 70s when the finals were in Madison Square Garden, and they were bemoaning the lack of attendance Final Four. So, look, it's the secondary tournament. It means a lot more to the regular of the CAA or the Southern Conference who didn't win their conference tournament than it does to an 8th or 9th place team, especially in this era. 2 or 3 of your guys might be trying to get in the portal and not really want to play in some tournament. It doesn't matter. They might be looking for that next NIL check.
Yeah. Brian Mull's with us. So some intriguing games tonight. Let's start at 7 o'clock, and it'll be a top 20 matchup. South Carolina hosting Tennessee. This may be Rick Barnes' best team, and that is 7 o'clock on the Mother. No, actually on the Deuce. So, heck of a year for South Carolina. They've got a win over ECU this year. Obviously, Rick Barnes. Big fan of the announced duo, I understand, of Johnson and Seymour, so I'm a Rick Barnes fan as a result of that. So, what do you make of this matchup tonight?
Yeah, I mean, let's give Lamont Paris National Coach of the Year right now, regardless of what happens. I mean, they're 24-5 and 12-4 in a very good. I think the SEC is the best conference in the country. I think they have the most good players and they have terrific coaches. And just watching that league night in and night out, it's just. I think they've got 5 or 6 teams that are good enough to reach the Final Four. And to South Carolina doesn't strike you as one of them from a talent perspective, but they are tough. I mean, Florida had them on the ropes in Columbia last weekend, and South Carolina, they just keep doing what they're doing. They don't make many mistakes. They're disciplined, and the place will be electric. I mean, they have the 2 best basketball programs in the country combined. They're in Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that? And it'll be electric tonight for Tennessee, but. This is Rick Barnes' best team. I think when you looked at his teams in the past, you wondered where's the ball going to go late in the game when it's a tight game in a Sweet 16 or a round of, even before that, a round of 32 game. And this team has a lot of weapons. They can beat you a lot of different ways. And of course they defend and rebound and they're tough and smart like all of his teams. So Tennessee looks like a number 1 seed to me if they can survive these next couple of weeks, certainly if they can win tonight on the road. But that should be a great game. There's been one great game after another in that conference this year. I mean, you had Alabama, Tennessee last weekend, Florida, Alabama last night. Watch out for the Gators when you're filling out your brackets. Go ahead and whatever they're seeded, that's a team that could make some noise.
Yeah. Another game tonight of high intrigue, a top 10 matchup. 8:30 on FS1. It's UConn at Marquette, and I think Marquette's a little shorthanded, maybe a player or 2 down with this matchup against the Huskies.
Their All-American point guard, Tyler Kolek, is out, and they hope to get him back, but I think they're going to be very cautious with him even through the Big East Conference tournament. So, it kind of dampens a game that I was really looking forward to in a way, but they'll get, Marquette will be ready for them. UConn is the clear number 1 team in the country to me, just with their, just slightly better than Houston and Purdue. But, it's a road game in late March. It's not really going to affect either team's seeding or standing or perception. So, UConn better be ready to play tonight. But Kolek's huge for them. I mean, he's as good as any point guard in the country.
Yeah. Iowa State at home tonight in a top 20 matchup. Number 6, Cyclones, number 20, BYU. Iowa State's had a heck of a year, haven't they?
They have. Yeah, they've really overachieved based on their preseason expectations and kind of survived the gauntlet in a year where Kansas is not a vintage Kansas team, kind of created an opening there at the top. Texas has been inconsistent as well. And, when you look at that league and you think about the Final Four, certainly Houston comes to mind, and Baylor seems to have all the right stuff as well and has, done it recently, winning the national championship. Beyond that, though, I just question, I think it's almost a situation like we've seen in the Big Ten in recent years where they're going to get a lot of teams in, but I'm not sure how deep those teams are going to go.
Brian, let me ask you about so that's the matchups tonight. Let's before we talk some tournament turkey, let's get into what will be the wrap of the regular season for many conferences, and of course we'll have other with the tournament going on. Duke, North Carolina.
I heard they were playing.
Yeah, they are. 6:30. Of course, the Pirates will host Charlotte on ESPN Plus. I'll have that, but I'll be the lead-in. That's fine. But with those two, you and I have talked about it before. We've talked about it this week. The first matchup is the sizzle. This is more of the steak meeting.
It is, and the great late Carlton Tudor wrote that many years ago, and I used to love him or hate him. I devoured most words he wrote, and he's right. Like, this is the game that kind of gives you a window into what a team's potential could be for the next few weeks. There's not going to be an NCAA tournament game that has a more heated feeling than the Duke-Carolina game, especially when both teams are in the top 10. And I think even more so when the game is in Cameron. Although the Chapel Hill folks have turned it up a notch in recent years when the Blue Devils come to town. But, this is a big moment for both of these teams. I mean, Carolina has been on top of the standings the entire season. They dominated the first matchup. And so this is a good barometer for Duke. Have you closed the gap? Duke has played very well. I think they've made tremendous strides. I think the development of Sean Stewart is a story that really nobody was talking about. And even before the other night when he played his best game yet, just the fact that he was getting out there and giving them another dimension for 10 or 12 minutes, it just changes their team because, look, the guy's got a 45-inch vertical leap. I mean, he does things that no one else on the roster and not many in the country can do. And you see him kind of evolving from athlete into basketball player as he gets comfortable. He's talked about that. And I think it's for a team that's a little deficient in the front court that, as Keith said the other night, doesn't really have a 5-man other than Ryan Young. Having another forward in the mix has been important. So can he produce against veterans like Baycott and Harrison Ingram? Can they keep Ingram under wraps? I mean, he killed him in the first game. I thought the Duke's defense on R.J. Davis was terrific. But, I mean, he's certainly the player of the year in the ACC. It'd be hard to keep him bottled up like that again. And Ingram was the mismatch, and they exploited it. Duke's playing a little bigger now with Foster being out. They're playing a little, not playing truly the three perimeter guys exclusively. So we'll be interesting to see the chess pieces there move around, what adjustments Duke makes, and whether Duke can, close out a tough team. Because, look, both these teams are good enough to make the Final Four. I was a little shaky on both of them early in the season, but they certainly have what it takes to between Duke's talent and Carolina's experience. I think each has the right to think that they could make the final weekend if everything falls into place.
Yeah. Brian Mull with us here. All right. Last thing here. Lenardi's got Purdue, UConn, Arizona, and Houston as the top 4 seeds as far as the number 1 seeds. Anybody out of the grouping of Iowa State, you've already said maybe Tennessee, Marquette, North Carolina, can they move up?
Yeah, I think the winner of North Carolina Duke, if that team goes on and wins the ACC tournament or at the very least reaches the final, could maybe have an outside shot at a 1. Okay. But probably just would get that strong 2 in the bracket with the weakest 1, which is kind of the same thing, right? So I think that's what Duke and Carolina are realistically playing for. They would need a lot to go wrong between now and then and really at this point in the season, you can, if you've been on that one line and you lose a game, you're so all your ratings are so baked in at this point because there's so many games that the one loss isn't really going to crush you. But a road win for Carolina over a team that's recognized as a top 10 team by all the metrics would certainly bolster their case to like I said, if not get a 1, be the strongest 2, be the 5th overall seed in the tournament. Yeah. But I think those teams are, they've proven it through the year. They're clearly the cream, and but I don't think that's going to mean a whole lot come March because I just think. I think there's a lot of teams that are going to feel like when they see their name in that 68-team bracket that they can win 4 games.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hey, let me ask you this really quick. Right now, if you had to pick somebody who is the, I don't know, that you would think, okay, here's the group that maybe has, or the team that has the best chance to be a real dark horse and upset some people, who would that be?
The scariest team that has been maddeningly inconsistent to their passionate fan base is Kentucky.
Yeah.
If they're 93rd in defensive efficiency, that's not good enough. But if they can decide for themselves we're going to play defense. We're not going to be an elite defensive team, but we're just going to play better than we've been playing. Now that we're in this tournament, that's a team that's scary. That because of where they're going to be seated, they're going to be. They could be a 6 seed that's going to have more talent.
Right.
That they're playing.
Right.
And
Lenardi's got them as a 4 right now.
But they could have as much talent as a 1 as far as next level talent.
Yeah.
And in that Sweet 16 game. So this is a team that every year I get very bullish on the Wildcats, and they break my heart. But I do believe talent matters in March. And another team is Creighton. They're in a tough league, but again, they can really score at an elite level. Beyond like the top 15 or so in the metrics, like I don't. Florida would be one team that's not quite in that group that I think,
right.
Has the right mix, but it's going to be a challenge for those teams to make the Final Four, but they're going to believe that they have a chance.
By the way, Lenardi's got High Point and Creighton in the first round. That'd be fun. That'd be a fun game, wouldn't it? That'd be a lot of fun, actually. If you like offense, that's it.
The NCAA loves to do that sort of thing. The Big South has not fared well in the NCAA tournament in recent years, and certainly that would be a tremendous challenge for High Point. But it would be a game where you would want to tune in because there might be a couple 100 points scored.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Brian, great stuff. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick. Take care.
We'll be back to wrap it up right after this.
The stunning conclusion of the show. It's the P-Man here on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back. Thanks to Brian Mull for being with us. Great to talk to BG Mull. Or you can follow him on X at BG Mull. No baseball tonight, and it has been canceled. May 8th is when the Tuesday postponed game will be made up for baseball. We have for you tonight Pirate basketball at 8 o'clock, 7:30 the airtime on 94.3 The Game and 107.9 WNCT. Patrick Johnson, Philip the Rep Pilkington. We're going to talk some baseball with Mike Mullis tomorrow. And then, Pilk, what is the Friday schedule? I'll be the first to admit I'm maybe not quite on top of that as I should be with everything going in and out and up and down this week. Up and down. It's usually good to go up and down, but it's not a good situation to go up and down with the schedule this week. Does baseball start in the afternoon Friday? I'm just trying to plan of course, best laid plans of mice and men. Why wouldn't you plan at this point? Mother Nature may have something else to say.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be at 4 with a 3:45 airtime, but, like you said, the game could be played at 2 a.m. It could be played at noon. It might be played 3 days later.
Right. Well,
it might
I'm
move
looking
to
at
Jupiter. I've heard Jupiter
Right.
is a potential relocation.
And not
Don't know how the
Florida.
time zones
Not
work.
Florida.
No.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the planet.
Not Florida.
The one past Mars.
So it looks right now like there's just going to be clouds in the greater Lynchburg area on Friday. So they'll play then. Rain on Saturday, which means if they don't proactively move the game to Friday and play 2, then they would have to play 2 on Sunday, which is supposed to be sunny and chilly in Lynchburg, Virginia. So no show on Friday. Our final show of the week will be tomorrow. I'm going to try to see about another Hoops guest tomorrow. But Mully will be with us also tomorrow on the program. So that's a positive and a good thing. Liked a lot of what Brian had to say. Obviously, I think it's the first time since 2012 that a regular season ACC championship is some way, form, or fashion on the line Saturday between Duke and North Carolina. And if you think about some of the epic games in that time stretch, that's a long time since a championship's being decided in that game. I also thought it was interesting, Mull thinks State's one of the more talented teams. I just, unless you want absolute apathy, I just can't see what the NC State thing. They need to have a plan. And they do need to have some roster cohesion. I thought what Gold said yesterday was very intelligent about the Wolfpack. All right, thanks to Brian Mull. Thanks to Philip the Ref Pilkington, Dangerous Dan Miller, Dr. No, Michael Buscemi, the whole crowd. Back in the morning on Talk of the Town with Trent McGee on sports. And then back here tomorrow for the Patrick Johnson Show.